Okay, so Phil, I'll just be helping people in the background if anyone needs any assistance at any time. For those people that haven't used Zoom before, you can share any comments or questions in the chat. Just by clicking on the chat button at the bottom of your screen, a chat window will come up. And so feel free to type any questions or make any comments there. And just for those people that have just come in, just to let you know that I have, we've set the room to have people when they first come in to be automatically muted, so that noises don't interrupt the presentation when the presentation starts. So, Phil, I'm going to hand over to you now.
Okay, great. All right, thanks, Lynn. So just before I hand it over to our guest presenter, I just thought I'd give everyone an introduction to who Darryl is. So Darryl is a passionate educator that has been involved in clinical education for 25 years. He has a passion for education, research, and implementing best practice in pre-hospital care. Darryl started working in augmented and virtual reality 4 years ago to enhance learning experience in paramedic education for CQ University. He wanted to find a way to bring rare events to paramedic students in a meaningful and engaging way. Some of these examples you'll get to see during this presentation. He has worked on immersive virtual reality sonography scenarios, crime scene scenarios for forensic science students, nursing and chiropractic virtual reality tutorials, and safety and awareness inductions across multiple disciplines delivered in virtual reality. In 2018, Darryl's been busy with also founded the and also current champion for CQ University for VR, AR and MR community of practice. Darryl is a firm believer that this new way of communication and education, VR, AR and MR, should be cost effective and user friendly enough that anyone interested in implementing the technology in their teaching can do so. Lastly, outside university that is related to education and learning, Darryl has been involved in the Australian Resus Council for 12 years as a chair of the Queensland branch, and 26 years branch commissioner, vocational education and training for Scouts Queensland. 22 years as a state superintendent, state training officer, and currently holds a role with State Youth Development Officer. He's won major awards in the such as the Medal of Order of Australia and the Medal of Order of St John's, and also the National Emergency Medal for his volunteering role in the Queensland Cyclone Yassi in 2010 and 2011. So that's pretty much paints a kind of like a picture of who Darryl is. I hope I've done you justice there, Darryl, and I'll just hand it over to you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, it's a lovely intro. I've just been lucky in a lot of areas too. It's more or less a bit of a passionate hobby for me, what I do with AR, VR, and we just tend to call it mixed reality these days. So I shall run through some stuff. I might have to get you to unshare your screen, Phil, so I can share mine.
Yeah, sure. Let me just, I've got so many icons here. How do I, stop sharing. Okay, there we go.
Very good. Now let's see if I can share the right screen and we'll be laughing. Okay. My screen's come through to everyone there?
Yes, looks good.
Yep.
Cool. Excellent. Well, thank you, and thanks for the opportunity to chat today. Again, it's just a real passion for mine. I saw your thing called me expert. I'm far from an expert. I've just had a lot of chance to play with it. And Phil's talked a bit of why I have been using it in my role. But I hope what I want to achieve today is some examples of how we use it to engage students and make authentic learning environments for them. But I also like to make sure people are able to go away if they want and do this themselves, which isn't too hard actually. I was quite surprised once you actually figure out how to use the software and the hardware. It's really simple, and the hardware and software is very simple to use. So please, any questions at the end, ask away, and I will talk about the equipment I use and the software I use, and always available to chat to if anyone wants to talk more about it. A bit about me, not that it's that interesting, but to sort of put it in perspective, I've had a weird career path. I was 17 years as a tradesman, but I did health and safety in that towards the end, and first aid. I worked for St. John for nearly 17 years as well, and I did every sort of role there. There's a lot of roles I've missed out on that. Actually, I was customer service manager as well and things like that. But the IT and training have been my real background. And I became a paramedic during that time as well. But 4 years ago, I started with CT University, and my role was initially to develop a diploma of Paramedic Science that would basically cover off our first year of our degree in the vet space, so students could transition into our degree in Paramedic Science. Because I was mostly, playing my mouse wheel, doing a lot of distance stuff with only minimal contact, I decided to try and make some things a little bit more interesting. I've always had, my other passion is mobile learning, and I can talk about that one even longer. I can talk about VR, I think, but these days I can combine the two of them together a bit. But I started playing with AR and VR when it was just starting to come out a bit, and see how I could do things. And as Phil said, the rare events, and I'll show you some of those in a minute. And although we say VR is a fairly new technology, it's really interesting. If you trace its history, it goes back to, I think it's 1840, stereoscopic photos. And if anyone who's owned a Viewmaster from the 1950s and 60s onwards, those wonderful things used to click the wheel round, you were trendsetters, because that was, you know, that was VR back then. All right. One thing, technology is a bit of an unstoppable force, they say, and a couple of, quotes there, but hit the wrong one, don't mind me. I'll fix that up again. Is that shared again?
No, it's not at the moment, Darryl. So
I might have to stop share and start share again. I'll just try that. Sorry about that. I actually touched my keyboard reaching for my coffee, hey? That's bad. Back then?
Yes, that's fine.
That's good, Darryl. One
thing I found was in the university sector, we weren't using technology as much. I think a lot of traditional type teaching, there were some people doing a lot of stuff. And I thought we should try and see where technology can support us. So we call it VAM. We've got a VAM co-op, as Phil said. We really developed it over the last 18 months, and we had a team formed that was mostly our technology staff. And I used to annoy them, and they finally let me play with them, so it was quite good. And this year I've actually taken a secondment with our IT, and they're calling me Senior Project Officer Digital Learning, doing all sorts of things, and VR's one of them. We're using material across several disciplines now within the university. Key principles, though, is that pedagogy before the technology. We have a lot of people who want to use AR and VR because it's, really cool, but we always make sure there's actually some pedagogy behind it. There's a reason, and it will actually enhance. And that can be quite interesting. You'll see when I look at my sonography videos, I was one that said, you don't need to do these in VR, but they put a strong enough case forward, and they wanted a bit immersive, and it did really work out well. So the things that works well at the moment is inductions, familiarizations, situations that are rare events. And that was the big one for me with paramedic stuff, because although paramedics, we think they do a lot of stuff out in the road, they don't do as much as they used to, and we'd never do a really big mass casualty triage. That'd be a fairly rare event, and they were one of the ones I start on. Scenario-based activities and immersive tutorials. I think everyone's probably really aware of this. Milligram's basically virtual continuum, but mixed reality tends to be where we work a bit more in these days. Virtual reality is totally immersed realities. What's real, AR is augmenting. And that's what I've been playing with recently, some of the things you can do augmented with things like the Merge Cube. And I'll talk about that in a little while. They offer some amazing opportunities. But I think it's handy to think of it as a whole space, you know, that you can have variances along the way of what you can do with it. On the virtual reality front first, I guess people tend to think of it's more of a game, but it offers lots of educational opportunities now. Research is starting to back that up. There's some good research coming out now. You know, talking about it is cost effective to implement, and it can have a significant impact on research and practice. People are already finding that they can get statistically significant improvements in skill development of people using VR tools. And that was a study that was done by a couple of people at my own university, but it's really, really quite good what they've done. And I've started to play with some of that tech as well now. How can it help us create authentic learning environments? Basically, it puts people in those rare events. Inductions has really been handy, scenario-based activities, and the immersive tutorials. So now what I'd like to do is actually go through some of that stuff. So if I stop sharing here, see if I can get all this worked out right, hey? And share this screen. Hopefully you've got that screen, hey?
Yes, that's come through.
Perfect. One of the very first ones I did, and how I made these, I bought a really cheap camera to start with. I bought one of the, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It looks like a golf ball. I've still got a collection of all my old cameras somewhere. So the res isn't good or anything like that. And I found some software that they use to create real estate tours of houses. And so one weekend, I took some friends to a park and blew them up, basically. All I did was I thought, well, let's set up to see. This is like a proof of concept that are if in glasses, and the beauty of these is they are scalable. They could work in things that are glasses. They can work on an iPad. They'll work on a computer. The idea was that they could go to a patient, have a bit of a look. At this stage, all I was doing was a pop-up which talked about level of consciousness, pulse rates, rest rates, things that they could actually make a call on whether or not the person needed, well, the triage category of the person. There was my barbecue that blew up. And my makeup skills there, I always want to do the evolves die. You've got to have some fun, haven't you? So you can get the gist of it. It was a camera that wasn't the brilliant camera, but it's still okay for what it is. So from there, I wanted to try and up the score a little bit. So we went up to cans, and this one's a little bit more confronting, I'm sorry, just to warn people. But the idea was, and in VR, this is quite confronting. It brought a whole new interesting topic up for me. I've used this, but I haven't used it distance yet. I think we need to better understand what could happen to a student in VR if they were confronted by something that was overwhelming to them. So I'll use this in a class situation in VR glasses where I can debrief the person. So this, and not a great topic, but it's a mass casualty, mass shooting incident. So over, I think it's about 7 rooms, there's 13 casualties. When they go in, they pop up videos this time, and they can actually see what has happened to each of them and walk through. It becomes a bit more interesting because there's a lot more area to cover. As they walk across, they can see. The idea was, again, just to get a triage score on each of these people. Everywhere there's one of our 13 victims, for want of a better word. There's actually a little pop-up video of each of them so they can look at respiration rates and all that sort of stuff. And this one here, just basically an asthma attack and a lot of blood. So you get the gist of it. And again, that's just the real estate software. I'll show you the software I use for that. And that has become so easy to use now. You don't even have to use the real estate software to do that anymore. But you can get the idea of the sort of scenarios you can create with that. Then a few other people asked if they get involved, and one was interesting. Our science people wanted to know if we could do an induction of the science lab before they got there. So how this works is you just click on things and you can actually get a bit of information about each of them. Now, I've just rebuilt this in H5P, and Rachel, I tried to email it to you, but your system blocked me. So I'll have to work out how I can get it to you, maybe just Dropbox it or something.
Okay, thanks.
But it did work okay in H5P. So I think you get the gist of this. They can just go through all the equipment, have a bit of a look around. Before they get there, they know exactly sort of what's in the lab. And it's a really simple one. The biggest part of all this is setup, you know, just putting everything out. And my normal school at the uni is the School of Health, Medical and Applied Science, and we do some amazing things. I never knew we did forensic science. And so this is a crime scene. They got I went up to Rocky, to our campus up there, and this is our residential school building, and they got the forensic police to come in and set up a crime scene. And the students get this first without all of these good hotspots in there, showing them what the evidence is. But the idea is for them to identify what is evidence and what scientific tests they would do on each of these items. It was quite fascinating for me to watch them set it up. And I think that's key too. You need to have the right people there. You're experts in the field, and the police are very good at that. They were quite funny too. I asked him, I wanted to see them use their little UV light, but he said he was been to university himself. He was never going to put it over a dorm room. So yeah, he's in a body in the toilet. So, and that's worked really well for the science students before they get to a res school. Now we've done lots of different things. This one's quite interesting. This was an orientation, a bit of an introduction to what it'd be like going into an aged care facility. So this is one of the lecturers in the aged care facility's mother's room, and she went through with us, and we went through, and it talks to the students about, you know, each of the things that are important, what the things are in the room. They can have a look around. Inserted a little video in. They could talk to Sheila there about what aged care means to her.
What would you like to tell the nurses about who the real Sheila Renton is?
Oh, I wouldn't mind telling them what I used to do.
I think you can get the gist of what you can do with it, and it is so simple to make something like this. I've actually got this one opened in another package in a minute to show you how it's made, and it is really, really simple to do. So I guess...
Can I interrupt, Darryl? Somebody asked in the chat, how long does it take to set it up, and who does the setup? Just as an example, this aged care one, how long did it take you?
Oh, to set it up, I guess that Margaret set it up for me. She had everything ready. But for me to come in and do that, it is less than half an hour, believe it or not. And Michael, it's so good to see you there. I invited Michael along. There's a group of three of us in CQ that they call the Three Amigos, and this is two of us now. Michael Cowling, or Associate Professor Michael Cowling, he just got the promotion, which is very exciting, works with me a lot. And he's just an amazing man. He can respond to some things in chat, but also questions at the end, especially the pedagogy. Michael is a really big one, pushing the pedagogy behind what we do. So welcome, Michael. It's good to see you there. One other one that just is a bit of interest is where did I put it? The engineering lab. This was like an induction. So when you clicked in, you could actually watch an induction video.
Hello and welcome to the Engineering Electrical Lab. I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Troy Simpson. I'm a lab technician here, and likewise Simon Cumming, you can see over there, operating some equipment behind me out of view. So the first thing that I'd like to do is explain that when you enter these labs, we have to complete a basic induction. And the basic induction is for safety purposes and for the safety of the equipment and others in the room as well. So the first thing I'd like to say is we have our emergency exits. So that will be the door that you enter through is our main exit. Likewise, there's another exit at the back of the room, which also leads out the back of the building. Once you go through that door, I'll explain once you come here.
I've lost my hotspot to get out of it. I know it's here somewhere.
We have a fire extinguisher in the corner.
But you get the idea. Then you can actually walk around this room and have a good look.
First aid kit is over here. We have an emergency
with
stop
the video
button.
side of it.
Should anything go
I
wrong.
thought it'd be interesting to show what we can do with video as well. This is one of the real benefits of 360 video in virtual reality. These are just going to play on the screen and you can watch them on a phone or an iPad. But when you actually put them on a bit of immersive gear, like even Google Cardboard with a phone, or one of the ones that Michael and I love at the moment is the Oculus Go. You put a student in there, they're actually suddenly in the ambulance with the actual paramedic lecturer. And this does a lot of things. It acclimatises them to what it's going to be like in an ambulance before they get there. It also role models how you want.
Hey Glenn, how's it
behaviour of the paramedic to be?
It's a bit rough. Yeah. Now that we've just got you in the car, we're just going to go through a whole range of questions with you, mate, before we give you something.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah.
I know that pain's really bad, mate. We're on the road. We're going to get you to hospital, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Mate, so tell me about the pain. What's happened there?
Oh,
Sorry, left hand turn there. Darryl, can we just keep it nice and steady, mate, please?
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
I'm actually
just,
driving and I was a bit rough in the ambulance
Yeah.
apparently.
It's just around here. It's just,
Yep. I won't touch it for the minute, mate. I'll have a look at it in a moment, okay? So the onset about 2 hours ago?
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Righto. So how would you describe the pain?
I guess you can see the benefit of that. I want to show you another one in an ambulance just to show you interesting variation with cameras. This one is with one of my favourite, the Garmin. The Garmin actually has all the sensors on board because it was made as a sports camera, but it means that I can actually put the actual speed on. So if we go into this one.
Hey, g'day folks, Paul Oliveri here. We're in the back of an ambulance, as you can see. We've got Darryl Clare as our patient, and we've got Shane at the front who's driving. Now, this is what your office is, so that we're going to be, this is what you're working out of day in, day out. So it's important to be familiar. There's been quite a number of incidents.
So you can see, you're virtual reality, but you're augmenting another layer over the top of that, which is your speed. You can actually augment all sorts of things like the angle, which is really interesting. I want to see what angle I can get an ambulance up to one day. That could be quite fun. But yeah, but you can add another variant. So you can actually have a map, draw maps of where you're going, all of that. And it's just so simple, the software does it for you. All you've got to do is click and say, I want it, and then position it where you want. What I wanted to give you thing here, if you're in the Oculus headset with this, you watch people sway. Because an ambulance isn't a really great workplace. This is in Cairns, we were allowed to do 80 Ks here in a 100K zone. And it shows how they rock and how they roll around. And if you're in it, you really feel it. And you can sort of get an idea of the speed we're going. So yeah. I talked a bit before about the pedagogy side of it. A lot of people wanted 360 videos, and do they really need them? And I had an interesting one there where our sonography people wanted to do some 360 videos. And I said, but you're just looking straight onto the patient. I can't see the point. Well, they said they wanted them immersive. So we've done a series of about 12 now. This is a shoulder scan. And it's got a couple of really interesting things in it.
Well, welcome to this video on shoulder sonography.
I found a screen didn't come up well in the video, so what I did there was I took a live feed from the ultrasound machine, and it's video and video. So I've synced up the ultrasound feed to that.
So if we just have a bit of an
He talks a little bit, so
anatomy,
let's just get on it. And
scapularis,
here he gets into the scanning.
sitting up here, that's where the subscapularis
So they're
nerve
great
passes,
tutorials
and that
for
can get
students. So he
impinged
goes right
upon
through the
from
anatomy
fluid from the glenohumeral joint in the shoulder.
of what he's going to be looking for in the
Then if we
scan.
move to the anterior,
And then he talks through it.
slide freely
So
around
just
the
about to
shoulder.
scan, I think.
Next, turn through 90 degrees.
When you put the glasses on with
looking at
this,
the
you're a
long
student
axis
standing
of the
right
long
beside
biceps.
the other side
So
of the
let's check
bed,
our imaging
watching the
parameters,
scan.
probably in a bit more
The
depth
beauty
because
is
the tendon
you
is
direct your head
disappearing
to
off the
exactly
screen
what you
here,
want to
so
look
we'll
at.
increase
Are
our
you
depth
interested in where he's
slightly.
controlling?
Our focus,
Are you
we can
interested
narrow that
in
down
looking at what we're
and
seeing at the
drop it
moment on the
down. There we
screen?
go. That's looking
Are you
better
more
now.
interested in the probe
So
placement?
heel toe the probe, so
And that's where
pushing
they
the
found the
probe
benefit
in, so
of
you
it
stay at
really
right
is
angles to those fibers
that
of the long
you can actually
biceps,
get quite
going down
immersed
the arm
tutorials.
till
Some
we
people
get to
don't
that
like them, but they found that
musculo-tendinous
most of their
junction, making
students
sure there's
do.
no fluid, making sure you've got a nice
We're actually in a
fimbrial pattern.
pilot study
And
at the
that would
moment
be our
to
next
see
image.
if people can
Then we go
learn
back up the arm, proximally
some
again.
specific
We've got the
skills, and it's actually
bicipital
measuring
groove.
the head of the
Let's shift our
bicep
focus up. Keeping your
by
imaging
VR
parameters
versus traditional
optimized
methods.
is
So it'll be
very
interesting to see what
important
the pilot
in
study comes up
sonography,
with.
but it's especially
You can see what I
important
mean?
in
You would
musculoskeletal
normally
where the
say,
structures
do we
are
need
so
360 for this?
small.
Because
So
that's about the
transverse over
field
that
of view.
bicipital
You
groove,
certainly
there's
can
our
go
long
look
head of
round the
biceps
place.
again.
You're not going to
Keeping
see
the arm
much.
sort of flexed and palm up.
And
This
that's
time,
about all
though,
you'll
we
ever see of a
externally
360 camera
rotate,
too.
and now
when you
we've
set it
brought
up.
the fibers of the
I'll show you the setup in a
subscapularis
minute.
into view. So if you can just hold your arm there, Michael, lovely, thank
When
you.
I started playing
So
with
you can
video
see
and
this
video,
is
I
our
thought, let's see where else we could
subscapularis
do with this.
tendon.
And some worked, some
This
didn't.
insertion onto the lesser
This
tube.
is one where I've tried, what would it be like if we actually put
Oxygen with less than 90% in response to.
a GoPro on the
There is usually a
person's
rhythm on
head,
these monitors that will
so you could
indicate
actually
to me that
look
it
what
is
they're
a good
doing there, but
reading.
also
if the rhythm is not effective,
have
then
superimposed
you could have a false reading.
across the top
so
what's happening
simply
also.
Go on to the
Very
finger,
easy to do too.
And
you'll be surprised with a bit of software and how easy it is when we go through software and that in a little while.
So we can see here
So,
two readings coming up, and we've got a nice rhythm there, which is fantastic. And so I have got this upside.
This is one I just did recently. We had all the ARC up here running a course, so I figured, what the hell, let's make a video on actual
what you're about to see is
an ALS scenario. So I'm not sure if you've got nursing down there, but if you have, you're welcome to this.
We're going to start off with the team, commencing with an A to E assessment, which will then progress to an advanced life support scenario where we've got 3 shocks that are given and the use of adrenaline and amiodarone. Following that, they get ROSC and they return back to an A to E assessment. Mike has been asked to come and see a 55-year-old gentleman by the name of Stuart who has been experiencing some chest pain.
So Andy, you want me to see a patient? Yeah, can you see Stuart? He's 55 and he's had chest pain, but he's not well. Can you assess him? All right, Stuart, you're right. And he's not responding. Was he responding earlier? He is responding, but he was breathing. All right. His belly's clear. Rate is low was a thought. So I'm just going to do cap refill. Okay, can I just take over the airway? Yeah, make sure that remains patent. 5. Okay, so about 3 seconds. Probably going to match that. So A, B, C. Can I get the pop him on a monitor? See where we're at. Okay, he's had some chest pain earlier on. He has he's got a history of ischemic heart disease. Yeah. Can you get some fentanyl ready for me in case he wakes up with further chest pain? But also, just before we do that, call cardiology. We're going to need an urgent review with the cardiologists. Okay, so we've got a monitor on now. Okay, so we've got sinus, and then you can give me the result when that's done. Tell me what that is as well. See where we're at. Oh, that's happening. Hello? Okay, no pulse, no breathing, so can I get you to start compressions? We'll do 30 to 2 CPR. Can I get you to do a charge on the defib whenever we're ready? Compressions.
I think you sort of get the idea what you can do with it. It's a whole raft of things there. I'm now going to switch screens again. Let's see if I can get myself confused. I know I can figure this out some way. I've got 2 screens and there we go. I will share this one now. No. Hopefully my PowerPoint's back, is that right?
Yes, it is.
Thank you, cool. This is one, and I'm going to let Michael talk to this now that he's here, because this was something that Michael did, and it just amazes me. I'll let you talk, Michael. You do it much better.
Oh, thanks, Darryl. I didn't realise I was presentation without notice.
You should know it's me, you know.
That's it. If you look in the chat, Lynn actually posted a link to when James Burt and I presented about this project last August. Basically, this project is a mixed reality project. It uses combination of 3D printed tools, and you can see the fella there holding those 3D printed tools, a 3D printed scope and a 3D printed set of forceps for students to practice paramedic skills when they're not actually in a lab with a mannequin and can do it from home, using the combination of those 3D printed tools along with an app that they load on their phone and then put into a headset similar to the one that the fellow is wearing there in the slide. So we did this a few years ago now, actually, and we did it a couple of times, and we actually identified that there was a benefit to the students doing this before they came to the res school. It was much better for the students, as Darryl said, a statistically significant difference for the students as opposed to them just looking at the material before they come to the res school. And that was really important for our paramedic students because, as Darryl can attest to, it's a very practical discipline. But at CQ, we have a lot of distance paramedic students that don't get a lot of opportunity to practice. And so this was an opportunity for them to practice those skills before they came to the res school. But whenever I position this these days, we did it at the time and I didn't know where it fit on that continuum that Darryl showed you. I often these days, I sort of say, this is really, to me, mixed reality. There's virtual reality, there's augmented reality. To me, this is the real mix of the two. Those 3D printed physical objects that are augmented with a digital layer and then some sort of app that lets you see them. So I think, as Darryl will tell you about the Merge Cube a little bit later, I think this is a really interesting development in VAN, what Darryl calls VAN. How's that, Darryl?
That's good, and you're going to probably have to talk on the next ones a little bit too, because I was really lucky to be invited by Michael and James to work on another one that they're doing, learning analytics using mobile mixed reality in healthcare. And I'll give the sort of rough overview, and then I'm sure Michael can elaborate on it more, but it amazed me. Basically, we have a 3D printed cube that has markers on it, and in front of a phone, you visualize a heart. From there, it is an observation mode or exam mode. In observation mode, you've got a detailed model of the heart that you can rotate in your hands, view exactly what you want. Self-directed, basically observational learning. But then it has an exam mode where it actually asks you to rotate the heart and show specific things. And it's, you know, I've only come on the tail end of this project. It's Michael and James that have done all the work on it. But it's quite amazing, isn't it, Michael?
Yeah, I'm biased. Of course, I think it's quite amazing. If you go back to the previous slide, Darryl, this was our, one more back where you can see the cube. There. On the left-hand side, that's our cube that allows us to visualize the heart. So on the left-hand side, that's the heart. And then when you put on the headset, you can see the heart. But it doesn't have to be a heart. It could be anything. It could be an engineering object. It could be something that you're using in nursing. It could be something that you're using in teaching, in whatever discipline you want. The key is that you have this opportunity to see this digital object in your physical space. And then what we do is we collect learning analytics data about how the student interacts with that object, both in observation as well as in examination as well, so that a student has the opportunity to do essentially a spatial examination using that particular object. Do you understand where the aorta is, where the ventricles are, where the various different parts of the heart are? And again, we saw this commercial object, the Merge Cube, come out. We came up with that a few years ago, but I think we're still a little bit ahead in terms of the ability to use it for learning and for education. But if there's anyone out there that can sort of think, oh, I could use that to show, you know, parts from my civil engineering, email me, because I would be more than happy to have a chat to you.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, it's very clever. I must have forgot to put it in. I have a video of some of my paramedic students using it. I'll dig that up towards the end. The merge cube is a similar concept, and if anyone can see my little screen at the moment, I'm holding a merge cube up in front of it. It is really quite clever. It's just a rubber cube with markers on it, and what you can do with it is amazing. There's some fairly good commercial apps out there, and hopefully, if all works well, this video should play. There's no sound on this video as such, so you can use it with a phone, or you can use it with glasses in AR mode. If you've got that's a phone, works so much better like that, specifically in AR mode. But you can see the detail of what you can do with this. It is very clever tech. And these, of course, have been commercially made apps, but the apps are actually free. And I'll talk about apps that are probably really handy for you to know later on. But to build, I will show you how we can build with this in a little while too. Again, that's one of the things that really appealed to me, that it isn't that onerous to build this yourself. But yeah, it's a pretty trick, isn't it?
If you Darryl got one of these from somebody that got it at Walmart in the US. I don't think you can get them in Australia yet.
No, you can buy them.
Oh, you can? Oh, excellent.
Yeah, they're just a lot more expensive.
And what I was going to say is, if you ask Darryl really nicely, I think he might have a paper model that you can go and get printed off as well.
I have got a paper model, and I have got a printable model.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then I just wanted to mention these headsets as well, which Darryl put me onto a while ago. These came from Kmart. They're worth $10, and you slide your phone in here, and then you can do both VR. And I was really excited, Darryl, to see that these also had to slide.
Yeah.
You can do AR as well. So for $10, go and buy the headset from Kmart, and go get Darryl to send you the model for the Merge Cube, and he'll show you how to do it. It's really easy.
Yeah, at the end, I'll talk to Phil and work out the best way to share all this with you, because one thing Michael and I are really big on is the fact, don't reinvent the wheel. We'll share it with you, and then when you enhance it, you can share it back and we'll use it. Another one that Michael has a HoloLens. I lust after the thing. I'd give my firstborn child for it, but I don't have one. I've got a needy pussycat if he wants it, but that's about it. The HoloLens, and they've up to the HoloLens version 2. Oh, there's one he prepared earlier. And when we end, we'll have some question time. We can show you that in a bit better detail. But to show you where mixed reality, I think this is the pinnacle of mixed reality, is what you can do with this. There's a small video of how it's being used in medical education.
CA Healthcare is the global training partner of choice to improve patient safety by providing training solutions based on simulation. As a healthcare provider, we're the most dangerous when we are into that learning curve. But now this has completely changed. What HoloLens has added is another layer. We can practice on plastic and pixels and see all the different cases and the challenges you can have. And then when you're ready, you can do these procedures on real patients. That's been a revolution.
And you can see how amazing is that. Basically, with a model, you can do cardiac type procedures with the HoloLens.
See.
You don't have to go that high tech at the moment. When I was teaching the paramedic courses, I tried to go away from textbooks, and there was a real reason for that. Cost. I was dealing with vet students who weren't quite as financial, and also a lot of them were people who were fly in, fly out from mines. They were working as, first aider, security people in different roles. I wanted something they could use. So this was my love of two things, augmented reality, but also mobile learning. Visible Body makes a range of apps, and I think the two that I really love are A&P or the Atlas. And I've got a 30-second or so video of them, what they do. Even without the augmented reality feature, they're pretty cool. But with the augmented reality feature, they're amazing. And for a student, they're not ridiculous. I think that's about $30 to buy the app, iOS or Android. And you can have them on, it'll work on anything basically. They work on PCs, they work on Macs, they certainly are quite clever.
Augmented reality mode is available for certain iPhones and iPads. To place a 3D model in an environment, navigate to the Microanatomy or Gross Anatomy Lab section. Select any 3D model view. Turn on Augmented Reality mode. Scan the environment to find a surface. Sparkles indicate you are close to finding a surface. When AR mode finds a surface, a yellow target appears. Tap the target to place the model. Use these finger gestures to adjust or interact with the model. Drag 2 fingers on screen to reposition. Use 1 finger to rotate. Pinch open or closed to scale. Select a structure to access additional information and features. Select Reposition to place the model on a new surface. Deselect Augmented Reality to exit AR mode.
Not bad for a relatively cheap app, is it? I thought I'd spend